Hello everyone and welcome. This is Christine with Patter Crafts and today I'm participating in the Anything Goes Hop. This is hosted by Courtney. There are 10 of us smaller YouTube channels doing a hop, trying to get our channels up to 1,000 subscribers. It's also Coffee Lovers Week. There's a lot of coffee themed hops going on this past week and I was inspired to also make a coffee themed card. So I decided to get out my Brew It Anya stamp set from the greeting farm. I think she's absolutely adorable and she's going to work perfect for my card. I have also colored her already, so if you'd like to see the coloring video, I'll leave the link in the description below. I was afraid adding it to this video would cause this video to be too long. Also using the Cup of Love stamp set from My Favorite Things. This stamp set has a bunch of coffee themed sentiments, which I will use to make my background panel. So I have a piece of watercolor cardstock here. Also using some Simon Says Stamp Clear ink and the Simon Says Stamp Fine Detail Clear Embossing Powder. The Simon Says Stamp Clear ink acts just like Versamark. So since I already have my image stamped, colored, and die cut at this point, I am going to work on my background. So my thought for my background is to have all these coffee sentiments all over the entire background. This is a new to me stamp and this is the first time I am using it. I first tried to line up all the sentiments on my cardstock, but because it's new, the sentiments are very sticky, so I decide I'm going to just go ahead and add them onto the lid of the Misty because this piece of cardstock is pretty big. I did that on purpose because I want to be able to trim the best parts of the panel for my card front, and I'm not 100% sure how this is going to come out at this point, so I end up loving the way it comes out, by the way, but in the end you'll see why I ended up making it as big as I did. So I am prepping my watercolor cardstock. I am just using some baby powder with a makeup brush that I purchased from the dollar store. When I first got into card making and using embossing powders, and like any hobby, you're not always sure how much you're going to do it, so you don't necessarily invest in all those little things, and an anti-static bag is one of those things I did not purchase. I may in the future, but this little bottle of baby powder has lasted forever. So I am now just filling in all the little gaps with a few of the sentiments here and there, and at some point I have open spaces but not enough for a sentiment, so I grabbed these coffee bean images from the Avery L Cool Beans stamp set, and they filled in some of those areas really nicely. So every time I stamped down, I did add my embossing powder and heat set it so that I wouldn't smear or smudge or do anything crazy like that. It takes a lot of time to do something like this, so I want to make sure that, you know, I don't mess it up in the end there. So as I stamped, I used the embossing powder and went ahead and melted it with my heat gun. At this point, I would also like to mention that Kieonna Baker has asked us to mention in our videos that if 5 of the crafters you see in the pop today make it to 1,000 subscribers, she will do a giveaway of $100 to a crafting store of choice. And if all 10 creators make it to 1,000 subscribers, she will give 2 $100 giveaways to a crafting store of choice. I'll leave a link to Kionna's YouTube channel below in case you have any further questions regarding her giveaway. So the next step after I have everything stamped is I grabbed a bunch of different random distressings. So you can see here I am just adding a bunch of random colors here or there. I'll leave the exact colors I used in the description below. I don't have the stack with me while I'm doing this voiceover, so I can't exactly tell you what all of the colors are. So I laid down my first color. I kind of used a little bit at a time just to see what the colors would look like together. And then I'm just using the ones that I like the most. So I went ahead, blotted them down on my mat, used a water mister to wet them, squished my paper into it, using my heat gun to dry that up. And I'm going to do this a couple of times because I want to have some layers. I want to have some splotchiness. I kind of want to make it look like spilt coffee all over this. Not just like one kind of coffee, like maybe this was sitting on a barista's counter and she got all kinds of splatters on it. That's what I imagine anyway. So once I have my main part all done, I am going to also smush down a couple of other inks here and there. Or maybe I just used the one. I think I used two, but I don't show it on camera. And just adding lots of ink dots on here with my water brush. In order to get the bigger dots, I had to add a lot more water and get a bigger brush. So you can see why I made this panel so big. There are some spots that just the embossing powder kind of got everywhere, so I'm glad that I'll be able to just trim that off. Some places the ink didn't get to, but I didn't feel like I really had to worry about it because I knew I was going to be trimming it down. And this little panel all trimmed up, I thought looked really cool. I grabbed some brown cardstock. This is 100-pound cardstock. I think it's the color chocolate. It comes in the Scrapping for Less kits. I usually end up having some extra cardstock laying around when I'm done making videos with those kits. And I just use them for other things, obviously, as we all should. So I'm going to go ahead and add some foam tape onto this panel because it is been warped. It's been dipped in powder and heat set and ink and heat set, and it just really needs the stability of the foam tape. Then I decide I want to add some of this really pretty brown ribbon, and I struggled to make a bow. This is the very last piece of this ribbon, and that amount, I was having the hardest time making a bow, and this is kind of where I give up. I decide, okay, I'm going to just put the brown ribbon around it, try to make a bow, couldn't make a bow, so I settled for a knot. So there you've got the little knot. I think that looks just as nice as a bow would have been. Actually, probably a little bit better because a bow might have been a lot more bulky. So going ahead, adding some foam tape to my Brew It Anya. This foam tape, if I cut it, I pretty much have to use it all or I throw it away. 3M has changed their formula and I'm not happy with it, and I won't go on a rant about it, but you basically can't save it. So that's why you see me using a ton of it. So I cut a piece too big, I basically have to use it or lose it. So once she is on the card, I decide we need to do the inside of the card. So I'm just grabbing one of the sentiments. It just says, "Life happens, but coffee helps." Using some brown ink from Memento, it's called Rich Cocoa, adding a little coffee bean in the lower corner, and that will be it for the inside of the card. We'll go ahead and add that, and then we're going to just do some finishing details on the outside or the front. Adding, of course, some Spectrum Noir sparkle pen, and we're going to also add a couple of sequins. So I have this little sequin packet. I want to use some of the brown sequins from there. I thought this really light brown one would look nicely, but it really just kind of gets lost on my panel. So I settle for this darker brown, and we'll go ahead and add 3 of them to my card front. So thank you so very much for joining me today. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more and you're not already, please hit that subscribe button. Hop along to the next person. I'll leave the link in the description below. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.